Football has become deeply ingrained in American culture. It started off primarily with the collegiate game, but over time the NFL has grown to be a fixture in millions of households, whether it's Sunday, Monday, or now even Thursday. When there are NFL games on, everyone is tuned in. It could be folks with money against the spread or following their fantasy teams, or just the old-fashioned love of the game. Football has become must-watch TV because you just never know when something historic is going to happen. But there's one thing that no matter how often you tune in to watch the NFL, you will never see. That's right. I'm willing to guarantee you will never see someone breaking the NFL's most insane record, a record that in all likelihood will never be broken. This record we speak of is up there with Cy Young's record of 511 wins for a pitcher in the MLB, or Cal Ripken's 2,632 consecutive game streak. Because just like the way in which baseball players are managed has evolved over the years, the same has happened with how football is played nowadays, and as a result, it will just never get past. The record we're talking about is for consecutive snaps, and spoiler alert, the record holder is not who you think it is. To understand how crazy keeping a consecutive snap streak really is, it is important to understand just how many reasons there are for NFL players to miss a snap. For starters, the only players that really even have a puncher's chance achieving something like this are quarterbacks, offensive linemen, and maybe an interior defensive lineman or a shutdown corner. In today's NFL, there are just too many personnel packages and formations for even the most talented skilled players to be out there for every play. Linemen and quarterbacks, though, are never really subbed out during the course of a regular game. While their responsibilities are exhausting in their own right, it is a different sort of burn. They need to be out there as often as possible to keep the team afloat. But even quarterbacks and linemen usually get a break here and there. Like in a blowout, once the game has been settled, it isn't uncommon to see a coach take out their key players, either to prevent injury, give them a much-deserved break, or just to get some other guys some live reps. The record for consecutive snap streak is thought to be held by the NFL's poster boy for consistency and grit, basically the gold standard for professionalism, Joe Thomas. He played 11 seasons in the NFL and didn't miss a snap, let alone a game, until his final season in 2017.
Come over and make that play.
First down run by Johnson. Boy, this is Joe Thomas here, the Iron Man of Iron Men.
If you think 10 seasons sounds crazy, it's even more remarkable when you look at the total number. 10,363 snaps. Yep, that means across 10 years of playing the game of the modern gladiator, nothing stopped Joe Thomas from playing every single play during that stretch. Joe explained why pushing himself to be consistent and to be out there all the time was so important to him during his retirement presser in 2018, saying the following: "I wanted to make sure my goals were as high as they possibly could be, so that if for some reason I fell a little bit short, at least I could always say that I shot for the best. I tried to be the greatest, I gave it my all, I did everything I possibly could, and I never sold myself short." In the era of football that is littered with entitled millionaires and selfish superstars, Joe Thomas was really one of a kind. I mean, he even had an epic story during his retirement press conference, one that was right on the nose for someone like Thomas who wanted nothing to do with any breaks. He explained during the press conference about the time that then Browns head coach Mike Pettin tried to rest his starters at the end of a rare blowout victory against their divisional rival Pittsburgh Steelers. The Browns were up a ton, and Pettin thought it would be okay to send in backup offensive lineman Winston Painter for Thomas. The offense was in a huddle when Thomas felt someone tapping him on the shoulder. He turned around and saw Painter. Thomas was understandably caught off guard, as he knew one thing and one thing only when it came to playing football. He were on the field until the final whistle blew, no questions asked. He explained that in his shock, he was rather upset with Painter and basically cursed him out and told him to get off the field. Fortunately for Thomas and the streak, Painter obliged and obediently trotted back off the field, which in a strange way shows how much respect Joe's teammates had for him. That his word meant more to a teammate than the head coach's word. Being the consummate professional he was, I'm sure Joe squared up with Painter after the game in one way or another.
I wouldn't have the 10,363 consecutive snaps if he would not have listened to me when I cussed him out on the field and sent him back to the sidelines to continue my streak.
But as it turns out, despite all the folklore surrounding Joe Thomas's record, there is actually a different offensive lineman who holds the consecutive snap streak, one who no one talks about. His name is Casey Wiegmann. Now you are racking your brain trying to figure out who Casey was. Obviously, he's not the household name that Thomas is. He doesn't have 10 Pro Bowl selections. He doesn't have 9 All-Pro selections, but he did, however, have a solid career in his own right. Casey entered the NFL all the way back in 1996, where the Indianapolis Colts brought him into the fold as an undrafted free agent out of the University of Iowa. He never made the Colts' active roster, though, and he bounced around a couple of practice squads before sticking with the New York Jets, who gave him a brief opportunity following an injury on their line. Still, he just played 3 games for the Jets before being released. Luckily, the Chicago Bears needed help on their line, so they reached out and signed Wiegmann, who became the full-time starter for Chicago in '98, but saw his playing time fluctuate massively over the next 2 seasons. It wasn't until he signed with the Kansas City Chiefs in 2001 that Casey really nailed down his place as a legit starter in the NFL, and to say he never looked back would be an understatement. He started at center in Week 2 of the 2001 season, and no one else played a single snap at center for the Chiefs until 2008, when Casey signed as a free agent with the Denver Broncos, where he would earn his only Pro Bowl selection. He played 2 seasons in Denver and then returned to Kansas City for the final 2 seasons of his 16-year NFL career. So while he never received the accolades that Joe Thomas did, and he remained relatively anonymous outside of the Kansas City fan base, there is one thing that Casey has on Thomas, and it's the fact that during that stretch between 2001 and 11, he played 11,102 consecutive snaps, which, if my math is correct, is quite a few more snaps than Thomas's streak of 10,363. Towards the end of his final season in Kansas City, when his streak was starting to gain some notoriety, the then interim head coach Romeo Crennel explained how impressed he was that Casey powered through the grind of the NFL to keep his streak alive. Here's how Crennel put it: "You get banged every down, and to be able to take that many snaps and still be out there playing, that's an accomplishment. I don't know who else can say that, but that's an accomplishment." Let me take a second to provide a little context for just how impressive this accomplishment really was. There is really only one active player that was even in the same zip code as Wiegmann and Thomas when it comes to consecutive snaps played: Mitch Schwartz, the right tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. Schwartz started and completed every single game in the first 8 seasons of his career. He entered the 2019 NFL season with 7,397 straight snaps played, meaning he needed to play in at least 2 more full seasons without missing a snap to eclipse Thomas or Wiegmann's mark. And this is in a league where guys missing time is about as likely as the sun rising each morning. Obviously for Schwartz, 2019 proved to be the year that showed everyone he was, in fact, human. He started off the season well, playing good ball and making it all the way to his 122nd straight game started against the Tennessee Titans. It was a tough game all around, one that the Chiefs ended up losing 35-32. But it wasn't the only thing lost during that pivotal AFC matchup. The offense was moving the ball down the field when disaster struck. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes dropped back to pass. Schwartz was locked in on his man trying to hold off the rush when Titans linebacker Harold Landry rolled up on Schwartz while he brought down Mahomes for an 8-yard loss. Schwartz explained to Sports Illustrated that as soon as he felt Howard come down on him, he knew something felt a little bit off, but he didn't think it was too serious. Schwartz described the moment by saying, "You do the kind of inventory and make sure nothing's going in the wrong direction or drastically wrong, and I seem to have avoided that." But still, it felt weird, so he tried to walk it off as he had countless times before. He hobbled around trying to power through, but it was to no avail. It still felt weak. In reality, he probably could have stayed on the field, but he did a split-second pros and cons list and decided it wasn't worth risking further injury to himself or leaving the team's star quarterback at risk if he didn't have the foundation he needed to properly block his man. He explained the thought process to Sports Illustrated, saying, "I think we were in a not-so-good down and distance. And I didn't want to go out there just for pride's sake, and all of a sudden my guy turns the corner, runs into Pat, and now Pat's hurt," Schwartz said. "That's not something that I'd be stupid enough to do." There ended up being just 3 more offensive snaps during the entire half, and when he went into the training room at halftime, the staff gave him the go-ahead to jump back into the gauntlet. But nevertheless, just like the streak was over, and Casey's record was safe. In a league that is loaded with impressive records like Derek Thomas's single-game sack record of 7 and George Blanda's 26-season career, this really might be the most impressive record out there. There are just so many reasons for a player to come off of the field beyond it just being a blowout or sustaining an injury that straps him to the bench. I mean, the NFL mandates that if anything happens to a player's uniform, they must go to the sideline to correct it, and there is no shortage of possibilities. Any sort of rip to the pants or jersey or shoes, the streak is broken. If the face mask gets bent or if the helmet buckle or straps break, the streak is broken. Or what if one of the braces that seemingly every player wears today gets damaged from the brutality of the sport? You guessed it, the streak is broken. What about sicknesses? NFL players are human beings after all too. How many times have you woken up sick as a dog and realized you just couldn't do whatever it was you needed to do that day? Now what if it was entering the gridiron with a collection of the biggest, baddest athletes out there who are paid millions of dollars to pummel you? The point is, all three of these guys are some of the toughest football players, let alone people on earth. And while there are plenty of other tough guys on NFL teams, I don't think we will be seeing any of them breaking the consecutive snap record anytime soon. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do so by clicking the subscribe button down below. If you like the video, then like the video, we'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, don't forget to tune in to TPS every single day for more cool videos. We'll see you next time.